everyone, Prestito here. So in today's video, I'm going to be covering my results from the challenge I posted on Twitter. As you can see from this tweet, the challenge was to blindly ape around $500 into every single call that Alpha Call bots made. And I said here that I did just one call bot, but I actually did for a couple of them. And I didn't ape $500, but I aped 0.3 Ethereum, which at current prices is around $600. It was around 700 at one point. And I started with a total of 5 Ethereum. So in this video, I'm going to be covering different parts to this whole challenge. Firstly, which bots I used and the entry requirements for them in case it's something you guys want to check out. Secondly, the rules of the challenge, exactly the rules that I followed doing this. Part 3, I'm just going to be going through every single ape that I did and how they went. Part 4 is the lessons that I learned from this whole challenge and things I would change from the beginning, and hopefully if you guys do it, things that you implement from the beginning, don't make the same mistakes as me. Part 5, my best bot pick. And lastly, part 6 is it worth doing this? So let's start off with part 1, which is which bots I used and their entry requirements and so on. So first up, I used GMI Alpha Gold, and actually the dev for this kindly reached out to me. He's a really nice guy, gave me access. I always checked out the calls from all the bots before actually aping, since I don't want to get into something I don't expect. So I saw the calls were quite good, so I decided, okay, I'm going to go ahead and scrape this and ape all of them. Then the next one I did was Blind Samurai, their top tier, which is quite expensive to get into. It's a couple $1,000s, I believe. Then Profits, maybe you guys heard of some of them. I did check them out and was in all of their groups and their top tier group. And I did monitor quite a bit before deciding to ape, and I ended up deciding not to actually ape any of them because the rug ratio just looked a bit too much. Then there was Moon Signals as well. To access them at 0.2 Ethereum, and they have some decent lower cap calls from what I was monitoring, but I decided not to ape because I made quite a lot of calls and a lot of them are also rugs, so I decided rather not. These are the ones I decided to track, and I think it covers most of the top tier ones. There are some others, but these are the ones that I focused on. Next up is the rules of the challenge. So the rules was I'm going to ape 0.3 Ethereum into every single call blindly, and I use Maestro Bot to automatically buy the calls from the bots. And also some of the bots were topics, so to use that, basically with Maestro Scraper, you can't scrape topics. And to do this, you need to use autoforward bot. And I actually made a video recently covering Maestro Bot, autoforward bot, how to set it all up to immediately buy calls. This is from call bots or even call channels. So I'll leave the link to that video. Make sure to check that out if you want to learn how to use that. I think it's super valuable and can help you out a lot. Then my strategy started off with selling half of whatever it bought at 2x, no matter what. But I did learn some lessons regarding that, which I'll tell you later, and where I adjusted this. And the other half I would hold for better gains. So that was the rules of the challenge. So now let's go through everything I aped, go through all the profits or losses and how it all went. So here is the sheet I put together covering every single buy, and there was a lot of them. There was something like 50 or something overall. So let's start off. I'm not going to go through each one too much in detail, just go through the significant ones. So you can see here, Blind Samurai, initially it bought Pizza and VRD, both of which, well, Pizza was a rug. And you can see a lot of them didn't buy 0.3 Ethereum and actually bought a bit less. And the reason for that is because they had a max buy, because it was very early. So for example, for Pizza, it only let me buy 0.129 Ethereum. So this one was a rug, unfortunately. Started off with a rug, bad start. VRD went 2x after I sold, actually. So that was a mistake on my part. But obviously, I'm not sure how that's doing right now. Blind Ape. This was decent, 2.5x, but unfortunately I had that max buy, so it wasn't really anything significant. Then you can see the first significant one was this Larry Fink short long BTC ETF. Can't say the rest. This did 2.2x, and the whole trade actually happened within 1 minute. And I saw the name and it actually looked decent, but I'm like, yeah, this is a bit degen. So it sold half on its own, and then the rest I'm like, I'm taking this profit, cover the initial losses. Then you can see there was some more decent wins with Swiper, GPT-4 Turbo. And then you can see the red here, some losses coming up. And most of these did actually rug. This one sold fast because it looked bad, and it was actually bad. So luckily I did. And also one thing to note, I did keep anti-rug on the Maestro Bot. And that helped me a few times, and it wrecked me once because sometimes the devs make it so that Maestro, I mean, they up the taxes, Maestro picks it up as a rug, and then they lower it and they get all the bots out. So that's something to keep in mind if you want to disable that or not. Anyways, let's go through some more. So this bishop actually was interesting because I used, well, once it buys it, I quickly do some research. I check with some of my bots. So this one I solved quickly because I checked auto simulate, and it said that this type of contract did like 1,000 rugs. So people that launched similar, well, tokens on similar contracts rugged a lot. So I was like, I'm rather going to get out of this. And then actually did 3x afterwards. Then here are some others. This Asakusa was actually a super hyped launch, and this slow rugged actually, which was quite interesting. Then you can see here some others, rug, 0.5x, rug. This pony was 1.3x, rug, and this choices was a decent one, 2.5x. ChatGPT, the bot sold half automatically, then it dumped, so luckily I had that auto sell on. Then Litecoin 2x, US doll hairs 2.5x was a decent one. Then you can see these ones were in pro. Grok 4x, not the actual Grok, but not different one. This was a really good one actually. 4x on the almost full 0.3eth. Man, I love frogs. Did a 20x, but unfortunately it had that max buy, so it bought super little, but it was the best ROI out of any of them. And then you can see here rug, color rugs, guys did quite good, 3.3x on that one. Then you can see Yescrow, that was the one that unfortunately Maestro picked it up as a rug because the dev upped the tax, and then it auto sold because Maestro picked it up as a rug, and then it actually pumped after that. So that was quite unfortunate, but like I said, I'd rather keep that auto sell on because there was a few times that it managed to front run the dev upping the taxes, for example, and it got me out with a little bit of a loss, but not too bad. And then you can see here, I actually stopped the challenge after there was about 14 rugs in a row. And I also did try this EchoBot because this was a bot that picked up very early ones, and I decided rather not to anymore because there were some rugs and the amount was just too small. I mean, the fees were more than what it aped. But you can see there were some really good calls, but I had a really bad streak here with about 14 rugs in a row almost. So I was like, okay, this is enough for the challenge to see. Also, gas fees were really picking up an insane amount, and I was just like, okay, this is enough information for me to decide. This is just a bit too degen. And yeah, overall, the loss was 1.16 Ethereum, which you might think on 5 Ethereum, okay, it's not so bad for doing such a degen thing. But if we go to fees.wtf, it spent 1.3 Ethereum on gas, which is an insane amount. It's, I don't know how much that is, $2,300 or something at the moment, or more. So that made it really not worth it because the gas, especially with selling half at 2x, buying, selling half 2x, and then selling again, it just added up an incredible amount. So the total loss was actually minus 2.5 Ethereum almost, which is around $5,000. So it's quite an expensive video, but hopefully it helps you guys somehow. And if you can leave a like and comment, it'll make it at least worth me losing $5,000. So anyways, now I'm going to talk about the lessons I learned doing this whole challenge. Firstly, it's some mistakes I made with the config of Maestro Bot. So the first ape actually wasn't that pizza. There was one that it popped up as I set everything up, and that was bypass. And maybe you guys heard of it, but it popped up on bypass at 40,000 market cap. And after a few weeks, actually bypass went to something like 4 million market cap, which is like 100x or something like that. But Maestro Bot didn't buy it because I had max tax on 10% and the initial tax on bypass was 30%. So that actually was a hard lesson to learn, but I decided, okay, max tax from now on, I set it at 40% in case a hype project launches with very high tax, then at least I don't get wrecked like that again. Then the fourth ape actually was going to be a project called Tubbs at 200,000 market cap, and I didn't scrape it because the slippage I had was set to 10%. Then after that, I realized, okay, slippage needs to be upped significantly, and I put it at 100%. And also note, I keep MEV protection on Maestro, so I don't get front run by MEV bots. It makes your transactions a bit slower, but overall it's worth it to do that. So that's another lesson. Make sure your slippage is 100% if you're doing this, and make sure your max tax is quite a bit higher. Also, I did have thoughts throughout the challenge to remove auto sell to be more degen, but keeping this on ended up being crucial because a lot of them would buy and then just end up rugging. So that selling half at 2x really protected me. I think I would have been down significantly more if I didn't have that on. Another thing I learned is doing sell half at 2x was a bit too conservative, so I upped it to 3x just because the gas fees were so much that even if I dumped half at 2x and then it rugs, I'll still have a loss because of the gas fees. So that didn't make too much sense, so I upped it to 3x and it ended up being okay since most things are quite degen. Another thing that I would suggest is actually putting a max market cap maybe to 200,000 or something like that, because if you're aping things that are over $1 million market cap with 0.3 Ethereum, depends obviously what your cash flow is or budget on this, then it wasn't really worth it. So maybe that's something I would change. Another thing is I learned that if the market cap is higher than what it auto sold at, so for example, if you go to bed, you wake up, you see it auto sold half, but the market cap is currently higher than what you auto sold at, then it's definitely worth researching the project and see if it's worth holding. Whereas if it's lower, then maybe it's better just to get out, since you know how it is in crypto, the hype dies really quick. Another thing to very importantly remember is a lot of these bots say they had a 2x win, for example, on a token, if the market cap went from like 10,000 to 20,000 and then it just instantly rugs. When in most cases that shouldn't actually count as a win, because most of the time, 99% of the time, you're not going to be able to get in and out at 10 and 20k and make a 2x on that, especially with the tax and liquidity. And a lot of the bots don't actually even count the sell and buy tax. So don't believe what most of the alpha call bots say in terms of their reports on their wins, because most of the time they're not being very transparent with that. And most of the time, a lot of the wins are actually rugs. So be careful. And one of the reasons also I really like GMI is they were very transparent with that. They really put there which ones, for example, they consider the high tax. They don't consider wins to be ones that are just a quick 2x and instantly rug. So that's why I really like them. And that comes to part 5, where it is, what is my favorite bot of the bunch that I used? And that, as you would have guessed, is GMI Alpha Gold, their top tier. So I'll leave the link to that in the description if you want to use that. And I'm going to be covering in part 6 of this video if it's worth it. So stay tuned for that. But that is my favorite bot of the lot. And their calls, they had some really big bangers, and a lot of the tokens that most people were talking about in crypto on Telegram groups and Twitter, they did call. And obviously there are some rugs, but I do believe if I played it better, for example, if I was just somehow more degen and I just held everything, that they would have one huge win. But then again, even the ones you hold that are huge wins end up dumping eventually. So it's very, very hard to know when to sell, when to take profits and all of that. So I do believe that the results could have been better if I was less conservative somehow, but who knows? It depends a lot on luck. And that's where I come to part 6 and ask, is it worth doing this challenge? So for the challenge specifically, no, it's not worth it. You'll probably get wrecked, and obviously you know how it is in crypto. If you sell, it pumps. If you hold, it dumps. So that feels like it's a curse for everyone, and I wouldn't do it. It's basically gambling doing this, and you're just praying for one of them to pump big to cover your losses, and eventually your losses stack up and then you don't have to continue, but you think, oh, if I continue, maybe I'll get that one big win. So it's literally gambling. So I would not recommend doing the challenge. So I'm glad I could do it so you guys don't have to. But then the question is it worth having access to these alpha call bots? And for that, I would actually say yes, it is, because it's really nice to follow which coins are launching, and they do filter out most of the rugs and scams and so on. For example, with GMI Alpha Bot, they did call most of the hyped meme coins, and they filter out a lot of the rugs. And then from there, you can do your own research. So if they post one, you can quickly look into it if you're awake and see what's going on. You can filter it with your own bots and see which one, or scan wallets and see if people are buying that token, and decide there yourself if it's worth buying. And for that, I think it is worth it. And for GMI Alpha Gold, I do like it. Even Samurai, you can scout their calls and see which ones are good. Profits as well, and Moon Signals, you can do this. So overall, I think it is worth being in these groups if you can afford to pay for the entries to these, especially if these projects have fair entry to access their bots. So overall, the challenge was really interesting. I don't know if I enjoyed it too much, but I did learn quite a lot, and that is valuable, even if it cost me $5,000. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this video and you also learned something from it. Feel free to subscribe to my channel. I'd really appreciate that. Follow me on Twitter and Telegram, and I'll see you guys next time. Thanks for watching.